be needing this anymore. Since our water heater is a little bit more narrow, we have about 2 inches that we have to seal up. Now when you do fiberglass repair and you're trying to fill in, you have to sand down so it's tapered about 2 inches around the perimeter so there's enough bite. And it's good to do it on both the inside and from the outside as well. I'm gonna see if I can remove this whole entire bench area so I can get access to the opening here so I can fiberglass. And it's crusty. Oh, let's put that back on. Bring out the stubby for this one. Oh. That's what we have to close. It's gonna get a lot messy before it starts to look nice. If I move the water heater to this side and cover the opening on the right side, then it just looks more seamless in case I do mess up. Expose that area as well. And then once I do it deep enough to separate the glue, okay, we'll save that. Yeah, see, that was already pretty loose. There you go. I used this before on the other Bigfoot camper and it really does hold really well for the foam and the fiberglass. We're gonna just sand this down a little bit since there's some high spots because of the screws, and we're gonna clamp it. Here's already adhered and it's nice and solid. So the great thing about fiberglass and Gelcoat is that you can get pretty good results, but you do have to do a lot of preparation and you gotta do a lot of blending and then buffing to make it transition to look very seamless. So I got the sander and we're just gonna go over this very carefully, create that taper. I was using 80 grit and this one's also 80 grit. So I have a little backing board with aluminum, and now I'm gonna wet this whole area up. I gotta lay in glass all the way up to this line. That would give me the 13 inches. So I'm using 3 ounces. That's about what this measuring cup is. So for every ounce, I use 10 drops of hardener. So I'm gonna be putting 30 drops. 28, 29, 30. All the sides. I just laid in 2 layers of the fiberglass mat, stranded version, and we're just gonna let this cure so that can give us the first initial structure. Here's a tip: make sure you use thick aluminum. That way you won't have it rip off on you when you try to pull it off. Because I did it over this, it's over the Gelcoat, and that means if I start setting this down, I risk damaging this and enlarging the whole area. So just FYI, if you're going to be doing this, don't go over like I did. So now I'm just gonna sand it down and just be really careful, especially in these edges. Look how off it is. I glued it exactly how it was before. I didn't really change anything, but that just comes to show what kind of cut this was. But now it's perfectly 90 degrees. And what you do is you get like a razor, and that transition is so that the gel coat is higher than what you just added. So using a straight edge, I can kind of see where my low spots are. You see there's no light going through it. And then if I put it right about here, I can see those gaps in the light. Some of them are way too low, like where you see the 0 and 1. And right here where you see the 7. Those are too low, so I'm gonna fill those up just a little bit. Right here I have some high spots that I gotta sand down more. And if you look at a cross section of it, you'll see that there's the fiberglass thickness and then a little bit of thickness in the gel coat. So I drew it up here on the whiteboard so you can kind of see when I first laid in the fiberglass. It was out here and it was just too high. And all that sanding I did was just to get it to the point where now it's like kind of like this all over the place and wavy. So I gotta fill that in with fiberglass still. Once I fill it in and get it to the point where it's at the level of the gel coat, when that's all sanded down and dried, then you go and do your gel coat and you build that up a little bit further out, just past it. Kind of the same thing again. And then you end up sanding that one down until it becomes smooth, and you polish it at this stage. And then you're gonna make it look all filled in. We're just going to continue the process until we get it just where we want. We're just gonna keep at it. I am gonna put another layer just on the low spots, and I gotta reinforce and make this thicker from the back side as well. I got these from the Dollar Tree and they're 2 ounces, so if you fill this up, you keep your ratios perfect for the hardener of the fiberglass. See, this is a chemical process and it releases a lot of heat. This has been in the shade, and this batch I put too much of the hardener for the temperature that we're in. And if you touch this, like, it's hot. Ah! That's how hot it got. It started melting the cup. That's the 3rd layer. Now it's pretty thick, and while that's fully curing, let's see if we can start on the roof vent that we're trying to close. So the great thing about the 12-volt fridge is that it doesn't have to be vented to the outside, and this old exhaust hood can go. Plus I need the space for the solar panels. There you go. Might have been a bird. There's a whole bunch of little Gelcoats, I think. It's like cheese. So if the sealant's really hard like this, add some heat with the heat gun and it'll come off like a sticker. That's what I eventually did. I was cleaning right here with the acetone and I revealed this past repair. They put some kind of red putty, I think it's like Bondo or something, and then they just spray painted it instead of Gelcoat. So I gave it the first round of the buffing. Even though that it's shiny, it's still a different color. It got cooked in the sun. So I'm gonna use 320 grit. I'm gonna create that taper that I was talking about from the whiteboard. That way I can bring it down lower and backfill it with fiberglass and resin. Because I don't want the resin to go on top of the Gelcoat, because that was so much work the last time I did it. So this is, I think, is a better approach. I scored around a couple times. Interesting. Already pretty loose. Just used a monojet, blew out some of the dust. All right, and then you get your aluminum that's nice and flat. Cardboard, just like that. There's some weight down, and that'll keep it in place. Fiberglass and resin is really messy once you get going. I gotta tell you, that was hard upside down. Now that I did those extra layers, this is really stiff. I like this. It's the same feeling as this now. I only did it on the low spots, and now we're just gonna sand it down. From Gelcoat to the top where the Gelcoat is. That's about the thickness of the original Gelcoat, just like how it is over here. It's just a metal cut-off wheel. If I was to put screws in here, this will start bending the Gelcoat and the fiberglass, and it could cause it to crack. So I'm gonna put just a little piece of wood. I didn't glue it to the fiberglass because I want that to have some movement. I just glued it to the plywood. Okay, so now next, I already custom made this one. Spray foam insulation in the little crevices there. It's like a perfect fit. Perfect. So it's definitely bowed in. we can fill that in. And as for those little pockets of air, I'm gonna have to drill those out with the Dremel bit, just to destroy that air pocket so I can fill it in with actual resin. Getting a little too cold, and I'm adding just a little bit of heat so that it kicks, and that way it can start to harden. A couple layers of fiberglass just right in the middle, kind of build up that dip that it had. It looks really good. It looks pretty flat. So now this layer had some time to dry. I got some high spots, but that's okay. Yeah. I did the orbital sander first to get most of the bulk off. And once it was kind of flat, then this is the one that's actually going to make it flat. And you just kind of go across like this. And you're going to get rid of all the high spots and the low spots created by that. And you go like that. Ready for gel coat. It has the nice taper. Okay. This is the last layer that I'm going to put. While we let that cure, let's move on back to this area. So now it's 90 degrees and 90 degrees, just like we did that repair with the gel coat. Now we're going to see if we can execute this bigger portion. This is the one I used for that other repair. I still have quite a bit. The pigments. Just put a whole bunch in this. I'm going to tint what's in here. That way I could use it for this area and the one on the top. I'm going to pour in 8 ounces. Some of this gel coat got scratched from the grit of the sandpaper, but that's okay, that's what we want. That way the new gel coat has something to grab onto in terms of this gel coat, but most of the adhesion is done through the fiberglass itself. Now this is the setup that we're going to be doing. Since this gel coat's like, let's say like cream or like almond color, if you look at the literature that they provide, they have a chart tell you just about what kind of colors that you need. We're going to be doing a test spot. I think here in the sun first. Put it until it becomes almost invisible and seamless with the color that's already there. And it's important that this is already how it's supposed to look like with the buffing. That's why there's already a shine, there's already a reflection. And since we're not adding any catalyst, we can always just wipe that off. So that's okay. I'm just trying to get the color to fall in there. By doing it this method, you can carefully add however much you need, little by little or lots by lots. See the color in there? You just mix it in. And every once in a while I put the cap on and then I shake the whole entire jar, just because there's a lot of pigment on the walls. The top corner one is the original color. There's like some blue that I can kind of tell in it, but last time I did it I was only using blue to darken it, and that ended up resulting in like a very blue shade at the end. So instead I've been using black, and that's actually taken away the brightness without changing the color of the yellow. So I just got some black there. Save that. All right, it's been like 1 hour since I started. But look at this.
Oh, wow.
You know it's good when
I can't even see it.
When you're almost like, you can't almost tell. We started at this white one, and then we kept going. What we were doing is we were just adding yellow, and then I added a little bit of blue just to bring down that shade, but obviously it was too blue. So then I started again, added more yellow, more yellow. About here I started adding very little bit of black, and that took away the brightness, which is what we wanted. And I was doing some more test runs here, adding some black, kept going back and forth. And I think I have it at a good spot right now. It's really messy. You gotta have patience for this, but I think it's gonna be nice. Use your catalyst at 1 1/4 to 1 1/2% concentration to the volume. So it's basically like 12 drops per ounce at 77 degrees. It's 75 right now. Holy cow. Just became invisible now. Alright guys, I'm just gonna continue because I can't hold this. I used the perfect amount. I was able to do that one and this one, and I ran out perfectly. If you take away the the sunlight creating the shadows, it just blends in. I don't have any more wood, so I'll just reuse it even though there's an opening there. Using these clamps, we can apply some pressure with a piece of plywood, stiff one. All right, we'll let that cure. We got a whole bunch of this commercial grade office carpeting, really cheap in the flea market, and it already has the adhesive. There we have it. I just added the support, and that gives it much needed rigidity. Man, that looks good. Let's do outside. We'll start the process. I'm going to be using, I think I'll start with the 80 grit, get the high spots, then I'll switch over to 150. I need to get my 220, and then I'll move on to 320, and then just kind of see where we're at. And as you can tell, it revealed the fiberglass, and that's because those are the high areas. And so what we have to do is we can't just put Gelcoat right on top of this, because then as soon as we layer it again and we sand it, it's going to be the same exact thing. So what we have to do is I'll get the orbital sander and I'll tilt at an edge, and I'll dig into the fiberglass, sand it so that it becomes lower in all of this area. That this is now tapered towards the, well, it was a high spot, now it's the low spot. it is. Laid it up again, really heavy. So this is the second coat that I put on, and oh my goodness, I had a piece of cardboard here to protect it from the sunlight, and I guess at one point it just collided. It dinged it here, it dinged it here, and it messed up all of this. I thought I sanded it pretty deep, but I guess I didn't. So this time I'm gonna actually use the Dremel. And I was a Dumbo, I didn't make enough, so now I have to do a whole nother color matching process. So I'm just gonna fill this up all the way to the top. I took whatever was left into it, I put into a little tiny separate container, because that's my master. All right, that's about an hour and a half later. That's kind of what we were starting with. Just trial and error, kept going, and we got about this shade. I think this is the one we're gonna go for. Kind of matches what I originally did. These three right here, 1, 2, and 3, were the original color that I had matched over here. So I would say it's about, in terms of ratio, about 80% yellow, probably 15% black I used, then 2.5% blue, and 2.5% like that reddish orange color. Okay, so we grind it down so that it's a little low. We'll let that cure. As you can see, I gotta fill in quite a bit more. So I'm just gonna clean up the edges, get it somewhat flatter. This is what it looks like, a constant process. I got some high spots and some low spots. One of these Dremel bits. The last layer. Last little high spot, some low spots. Same here. And those little blob areas, that's where I had to fill in a little bit more. So now I'm just gonna sand it again. And that's the final result. You can see how shiny it is. After I did the 150 grit to get the majority off, then I moved on to 220 on the edges, and then afterwards I did 320 grit. And at the very end, once I knew it was all completely flat, then I did 800 grit, and that prepared it for the buffing wheel, the wool and the Marine RV 49. Okay, let's put this in now. Let's see. These shims, these are made out of like a plastic wood composite. So I might have to do something to wedge it right there. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm gonna use stainless steel. So I'm just gonna give it a little light sanding, see where we're at. I'm doing this at sunset because you can actually see the shadows, but it's all flat now. So those are just the low spots. And for the high spots, I had to grind those down. This surface is already good to go, but all those low spots I just filled in. And once we start sanding it, it's gonna become all smooth again. It's sunset, and so we can really see how it looks with all the shadows. But essentially, there's still a lot of high spots. But I think what I'm gonna do instead at this time is just lay on a really thick layer, and I think I should cover just everything all at once. And there you have it. It's all covered up now, it's smooth. The gel coat's still wet, but it'll start to look like the rest once it dries.